when you start to look at 2024, and we're recording in 2024, you've got Ford that came out and pulled back on DEI. Lowe's, the home improvement retailer, came back, pulled back on DEI. Harley Davidson came back. Tractor Supply, Molson Coors, beer company, came back and pulled back on DEI. So what I'm trying to get my head around is, what is the feeling out there of DEI, DEIB, inclusion? What are we going to do here that really does elevate everybody, no matter what your background is, where you're from, what color your skin is, what language you speak, what your gender options are? All of that should be set aside, and we should all be sitting at the same table. It's just not that way today.
Yeah, and before I answer, what's happening or how we got there, I do want to just do a quick overview of how we see the terms, because I think the
Yeah.
language is really important. And when we talk with organizations, we say creating a culture of inclusion where everybody's voice can be heard to drive business success is important. I call that like the top of the funnel, and I'm using my hands for those of you listening. And C-suite in particular get that. It drives innovation. Inclusion, drives innovation, productivity, engagement. It helps you keep your best talent. That all makes sense for business. And then we think of this in an equation, Tom. If you add a plus to, there are dimensions of difference that we have here. You said earlier, piece of paper. Surely people weren't even born that are listening to this. When Denny's, that's ancient, like dinosaur times. Okay, so there's those dimensions of difference. And we're just going to know that if we're breathing, we have bias. Okay, so we all have bias towards that. So we have to stay self-aware. If we do those two things, then that will result in equity. And the feeling will be, I feel like I belong, because people are actually valuing it. Now, if you look at each of those as that relates to business, one of the things, and I'll go both ends of this continuum. So one of the things that happened when DEI flew across the global stage is people started to glob them together. Don't do it. Why do you need a culture of inclusion? Because not one group has the best ideas. Why? You're not going to ask people like me to sell to Gen Y, to sell to Gen Z. Why do you need dimensions of difference? Because the largest growth in the US economy is multiracial, multi-ethnic people. By 2026, they'll make up $7 trillion or 30%. Do you want them as customers? And then let's equity take care of itself. So there are players and think tanks in what I call the disinformation campaign. And so when you look at those six that have fallen, Ford, started Tractor Supply, John Deere, Lowe's, and I think Ford and Molson Coors were the latest. Those are from the result of a what I call a fringe ideologist who said things like Harley Davidson, and this isn't a quote, but it's a paraphrase. Harley Davidson is spending its money for sex changes for children. That is a complete piece of disinformation. It is a complete, let's just call it, it's a lie. But it whips up fear, and then the platform that's used to push against this is X, and they get people to threaten that they'll boycott. Now, I can't explain to you why they want to shut it down, and I've been writing quite a bit about organizations. Don't cower. Start publicly stating, in the same way you sell Coors beer, what's your PR campaign and why you're doing this. Communicate internally why you're doing this. If you get more people to drink your beer, you're going to have more I don't drink beer, so I don't even know what you call it, but more flavors of beer. You're going to have cheaper prices. You have, better accessibility. So that's where we are now. And it's like the person who's behind this, he's a 35-year-old young man, Robbie Starbuck, and he's bragging on X. I don't even have to go after him now. I just have to say their name and they fold. Why are these companies so afraid? And so if you go back to, I'll tell you my Disney story, if that's okay to go there. I was in 2023, I was working with the leadership team literally in Orlando. And if you've been there, you get off the plane and you go, wow, I feel like I'm in Disney World already. Every single thing here is, Disney this, Disney that. So in the executive training with the CEO, I made like a 42-second comment, which was this: I can't believe a governor of Florida, but they knew would take on their largest corporation, Disney, in anti-woke, because all woke means is to try to attract a multiracial, multi-gender workforce. And the C-suite went, oh, people at the C-suite don't do that. And I got berated. Only one other time in my career have I been lit up like this about being political. I wasn't trying to be political. I'm just saying I didn't understand the rationale in doing that, which led me early this year to say, where the heck is this coming from? This kind of response. And I'll pause there. Then I found out what had been happening for the last 5 years out of sight for the rest of us.